All right, all right. How we doing this evening at Throttle Up Biker Bible Study? Hello out there online. For those of you that couldn't make it tonight, we're sorry that you're not feeling well. Hopefully you'll be back in time for service on Sunday, which is going to be pretty cool. Glad you guys made it. I'm glad you're here. Glad everything's going as well as it can be in the situations we have to deal with. You know, this old world is in a world of hurt, globally, as well as locally, that's good. It's few and far between for things like that. But we're back here at TUBBS. We're in Genesis chapter 5 tonight, and we are going to be having a good time with what a lot of people will consider a boring subject, but we're going to make it a little less boring by telling you some things, as usual, that you may not know. You guys seem to enjoy that, so I like it. I love studying the Bible from different angles. Mom, we'll get you one. Sorry. Anyway, so let me open us up in a word of prayer, and we're going to jump right into Genesis chapter 5. Heavenly Father, Lord God, we thank you again for this day that you've given us, this time that you've given us to be together. Father, I ask you right now to come and sit with us as we go through what you have told us is important and why these words are in this book. Father, we thank you for that. We thank you for the opportunity to share with others what you've shown us, Father, and we just praise your name for everything you're doing to us, through us, and for us. In Jesus' holy and precious name, amen. So we did Genesis chapter 1, and that's the 6 days of creation. And we did Genesis chapter 2, and that was the fall of man, right? You know, we found out the dragon got kicked out of heaven, confused the woman because she didn't actually hear the words of God, and then Adam partook as well. We saw the birth of their first sons, Cain and Abel. We saw Cain kill Abel and then try to hide it from God, right? So we're all good with all that, right? And then in chapter 4, what did we do? Chapter 4, we read about Cain and his wife and the way their children come out. And then we read about Seth, Adam and Eve's third son, right? Now, what we don't see is all the children between Cain and Abel and Seth. And people say, what do you mean, what about these people? Cain was probably married and had children before Seth was born. Okay? We have to assume that. Now, we don't think Abel ever got married. That's not listed, and it's not important. The one thing that I keep trying to tell people, not every name is in the book, because not every name leads to something that's important. And what we're going to see today is the lineage from Adam to Noah for a reason. Okay? So I want to start just right off the bat and say there's very little difference. Uh-oh. I'm going to set the alarm off. I apologize. Stop that. Did you hear it beeping? Yeah, it happens all the time to me. Anyway. So right off the bat, I want to read out of the ESV and out of the King James the first two verses, okay? So let me get my phone up here so that it'll be up on the screen so that people can actually see what's going on here. And, of course, my phone died on me. Why does it always do this right when it's time to start? Yeah, he thinks he's being cute, but my God's bigger than anything he can do. All right, so here it is out of the ESV. I know you guys bring it out of the King James. I'll show that in a second, so just pause with me. I'm just doing the first two verses right now. So first off, it says, this is the book of the generations of Adam. When God created man, he made him in the likeness of God. Male and female, he created them, and he blessed them and named them man. Now, I'm going to come back and focus on that word here in just a minute. When they were created. Okay? So now, I just want to do the same thing in the King James. Okay? Just the first two verses. Simple enough, right? So, and it follows right along, except there's a couple of words that are different, that are pretty important. Not that there's one better than the other. It's just the translation of the word. But it says that's Genesis chapter 1. I want Genesis chapter 3. So now, Genesis chapter 5, Fred. Come on, get with it. Here we go. This is the book of the generations of Adam. Pretty much word for word, right? In the day that God created man, in the likeness of God made he him. No real difference there, right? All right, here we go. Verse 2. Male and female created he them and blessed them and called their name Adam. Did you notice that's not the same word that we read in the ESV? I'll tell you why in just a second. In the day they were created. Okay, so here's the first thing. Here's the first thing that people have to understand. These are English translations of ancient Hebrew. In ancient Hebrew, Adam is the word for man. Adam means man. Okay? So now if you compare the two, if you just swap the word Adam and man, it's the same. It reads exactly the same, except the he it comes before, whatever, right? But how cool is that? You know, people say, why does it say this and it doesn't say that? It says the same thing. It's like when you go grocery shopping, what's that thing you push around? A what? And what do you call it? It's okay. A cart, right? I've heard it called other things in other places. I'm not going to say, but buggy or cart. But you both know exactly what that means, right? Okay. So it's the translation of the device that's metal cage with a handle and four wheels that rattle as you walk down the road. Or thump, 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 because it's got the flat spot, right? Yeah. Okay. So it means the same thing. Now, watch this. I'm going to go back to the ESV, okay? So in the ESV, it said, this is the book of the generations of Adam. And in the King James, this is the book of the generations of Adam. So it's exactly the same. Now, picture this in your mind. Adam is the first man, right? Now, I did not get this up there on the screen, but I want to read you Matthew chapter 1, which we happen to be studying, on Sundays, right? But in Matthew chapter 1, John, Luke, Mark, Matthew. I just remembered this. That's why I don't have it set up. I apologize. But listen to this. Listen very carefully how Matthew starts his book, okay? It says, the book of the genealogy of Jesus Christ. What is the first line of chapter 5? This is the book of genealogy of Jesus Christ. This is the book of generations of Adam. Do you realize that Adam was the first son and Jesus is the last son of God? That's why they both start the same way, where the genealogy or the generations of, there's no generations of Jesus, right, after that, but he is, because he is the last. You ever thought of that? Yeah, Jesus is known as the Son of Man, but once he's crucified, he's promoted as the Son of God, right? Well, he's the last Son of God, where Adam is the first Son of God. How cool is that? How cool is that? All right, so back here now in Genesis chapter 5, verse 3 says, I'm sorry, I skipped something. So let's look at verse 2 then. Verse 2, we said over here in the King James, says, male and female he created them and blessed them and called their name Adam. But in the ESV it says, male and female he created them, exactly the same. He blessed them and named them man. Now on the screen you can see that. Notice that man is capitalized. That is the proper term for either a couple or a group. So God, in the King James, called them man, or called them, what does it say here? I messed up. And called their name Adam. Okay. Now, I heard one preacher say this one time, and it floored me. Notice it's not Adam and Eve dash Adam. There's no hyphen there. It's just Adam, right? Right. No, because it's a proper. That's why in the ESV it says, and call them man with a capital M. It's the proper name. It's their family name. So if you ever get the question, what's Adam's last name? His last name is man. Right? Here's the rest of what that verse 2 means. It says, and he blessed them. Remember I asked last week when they got married? That's it. God himself officiated the marriage because he made them to be together. Now he is introducing them to the world, and this is man. Now, that's where we get our word mankind from. Okay? Everything's associated with that one word, which in Hebrew is a proper term for a group of people. See, it's not just the word. You have to understand the whole background of it, right? So, all right, so now we'll get to verse 3. It says, when Adam, now that's the name Adam, that's the actual person's name, not the group, right? When the person Adam had lived 130 years, he fathered a son in his own likeness. Let me go back and read something for you. In Genesis chapter 1, it says, so God created man in his own image. And now Adam fathers a son when he's 120 years old in his own image. It doesn't say that about Cain and Abel, does it? But it does about this son. I'm going to explain why. That's a great question. So look, it says, when Adam had lived 130 years, he fathered a son in his own likeness, after his image. So back over here again in chapter 1, it says, God created man in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Okay? All right, so you stay with me on that. So a son in his own likeness after his image, and he named him Seth. So here's a good question. What does Seth mean? If Adam means man, I didn't look up Eve. Sorry, it wasn't important at the moment. What does Seth mean? Good guess. Good guess. It's the appointed one. Now, so we have Cain and Abel. Cain kills Abel. Cain goes off, gets banished, and has a wife, has children. And if we follow them all the way through the Bible, they lead to all kinds of death and destruction and anti-God. Cain's offspring does. Now, what do you think Seth does? If Cain and his offspring go against God, Seth and his offspring go for God. That becomes really important when we start looking at names that sound the same between Cain and Seth. You got to know which one you're talking about. There are children like Lamech, Methuselah and Methuselah. They sound the same to us English people, right? Not to them. It's because one is Cain and one is Seth's descendants. All right. So, yeah, Jamal and Jubal. So here's Seth, right? Meaning the appointed one. That is so cool. Now watch what happens. It just gets better. People read this, and because it's a lineage, they don't really care. But look what it says in verse 4. It says the days of Adam after he fathered Seth were 800 years. He was 130 when he gave birth, when his wife gave birth to Seth, right? Plus 800 years. And he had other sons and daughters. Now, why don't we see anything about them? They're not important to the story that's trying to be told here. And we're going to get to the story by the time we get to the end of the chapter. And then verse 5 says this. Says, thus all the days that Adam lived were 930 years and what? Now, why did he die? Yes, you do. Because God told him, if you eat of this tree, you shall surely die. Now, Eve took it a step further and said, even if I touch it, I'll die. God didn't say that. So that's how Satan got the doubt in her mind. Did he actually say that? It does in all cases, mentally, physically, and spiritually. All death. All right. So bear with me as I try to get this part done. I've been thinking about this all day. So let me try this. You guys out there may not be able to see it, but I'm going to try. So this is Genesis 5, right? Genesis 5. So we have Adam, who fathers Seth, and Adam lives 930 years, right? Of that 930 years, 130 of it before he fathers Seth. How many children could a woman have between Cain and Abel and Seth? No. Cain and Abel were twins because it says that Adam knew his wife once. Right? But we know that there had to be somebody between them because Cain had wife and children by then. We think. All right, check this out. So that's Seth, right, is now born. Now let me go to the next verse. It says, when Seth lived 105 years, he fathered Enosh. That's what it's going to look like. That's really what it's going to look like, okay? But now it says, so after 105, he fathered Enosh. Who's his wife? It's got to be his sister or one of Cain's kids. We don't know. Right? But look what it says next. Verse 7. Seth lived after he fathered Enosh 107 years. So Seth then is 912, right? We're good with that. Hope my math is still as good as it used to be, right? All right. We're going to go on. Check this out. 5:8. Thus all of the days of Seth were 912 years. Yay, I got it right. I forgot it told me that in the next one. And he what? Okay, that's important. Now then, Enosh lived 90 years. And he fathered Kenan. Right? So, he was a little faster than the rest of them, right? Okay. So, Kenan. Now, is that all that Enosh had? Is that all that Seth had? No. They had multiples. And I'm going to tell you something here in a second that's going to blow your mind, but listen to this. Verse 10 then says this. Enosh lived after he fathered Kenan 815 years. So, 815 and 90 is 905, right? Because I believe the next verse says that. Woo, imagine that. Thus, all the days of Enosh were 905 years, and he... Oh, sorry. And he died. Did you say that? Okay. Because he does father more sons and daughters. That is correct. They're not important to this story, but he does. Okay? Where are we? Is this 12 now? When Kenan lived 70 years, right? 70 years, Getting a lot younger now, right? Mahalalel. M-A-H-A-L-E-L. A-L-E. Now, the only reason he's important to this story is because that's the lineage that we're going through. Nothing else is said about him except what? That Kenan lived after he fathered Halel for 840 years, and he had other sons and daughters. That's what you were saying earlier. So therefore he lived 910 years, right? Now, I'm going to keep going. So after that, Mahalalel lived 65 years. 65 years, and then fathered Jared. Right? Right. Whew. Now, if you were a Jewish person, you have to memorize all these names and all these numbers. Yeah, well, that's because you don't live that lifestyle. But we don't have to know that, but it is important to our story. Because Mahalalel lived after he fathered Jared 830 years and had other sons and daughters. Therefore, his whole lifespan was 895 years. 895 years, right? And then he died. Why do I keep saying that? Why is that important? Well, because when Jared had lived 162 years, now we don't know if he waited that long to have kids or if there's others before that. It doesn't matter. What matters is this name here. After 162 years, he fathered a person that we will soon learn a whole lot about. Enoch. Yes, that's Enoch. Now there's another name we're going to see that's Enosh, but this one is Enoch. Okay? So after 162 years, he fathered Enoch. There's a cricket in here. Good thing Sabrina ain't here. She'd go running. Sorry, Sabrina. Anyway, Jared lived after he fathered Enoch 800 years and had other sons and daughters. Thus, all the days of Jared were 962. And then but watch what happens next. Enoch lived 65 years and fathered Methuselah. I'm just gonna put his name best I can. Methuselah. Right? Close enough, right? After 65 years, Methuselah. That's a name you'll remember after today as well. Enoch walked with God. This is the first time since Adam and Eve got kicked out of the garden that anybody walked with God. Notice that? None of these other people did. Remember I said Seth's name was the appointed one, right? I'm going to go through these other names in just a minute, but listen to this. Enoch walked with God after he fathered Methuselah 300 years and had other sons and daughters. We're good with that, right? So 365 is how old Enoch would have been, right? And I'm going to write that right there. But now watch what the next verse says. Thus all the days were 365 years. And then there's a period. Notice what it doesn't say. We're going to get there. But it doesn't say that he died. And here's why. Look at the next verse. That means to be continued. Enoch walked with God and he was not, and I'm going to have to add this word, but in your King James it'll probably say it, and he was not found dead, for God took him. What does the King James say? Right. So it doesn't say that he did not die, but he says that he was not, for God took him. So how we know that he lived at least 365 years. Here's the question. God took him. He didn't die. Still alive? Well, he's in heaven with God, so of course he is, right? But his physical body never died. Two people that happened to. Enoch and Elijah. Now, when we get farther into the Old Testament, we'll find out Elijah and Elisha and all that good stuff. And Elisha watched the chariot of fire come down and take his dad. Didn't kill him, but took him to heaven. That's the only two people that we know of that were taken, not dead. There's a third one, I believe, that never died. Now, this is a Fred thing. This is not a Bible thing, right? God brought Lazarus back from the dead. We'll just leave it at that. Okay? So Enoch walked with God and was not, for God took him, right? When Methuselah lived 187 years, he fathered Lamech. Now I'm going to make this up this way, right? So Lamech, we're almost through this part. He fathered Lamech after 137 years. And then Methuselah lived after he fathered Lamech 782 years and had other sons and daughters, right? So then it says that the total number of days of Methuselah were 969 years. And now his dad didn't die, but he did. Okay? When I start reading these names off and telling you what they mean, you'll understand that. So what happens? So Methuselah dies, but he has this son named Lamech. Lamech lived 182 years and fathered a son. I'm going to have to do it this way. Sorry. Doing the best I can. Fathered a son and called his name Noah. I miss Noah. Out of the ground, he called his name Noah, saying, out of the ground that the Lord has cursed, this one shall bring us relief from our work and from the painful toils of our hands. Now, because we've studied enough of the Bible, we know what Noah does, right? What does he do? He builds a big boat. And everybody's laughing at him, right? Now, we'll get to that story in chapter 6. But for now, look at the ages of these people, right? Does it tell us Lamech's age? Did it ever did? I don't know if it did or not. Oh, there it is. All right, so Lamech lived after he fathered Noah 595 years and had other sons and daughters. Thus all the days of Lamech were 777 years, and he died, and then there's Noah. Right? All right, so here are some of the arguments that I've heard about this. How can anybody live 969 years? That has to be days. Well, if they were days, then some of them would have been 5 years old when their children were born. No. No. It is years. Well, that's Jewish years before the Roman calendar came about. Okay, then it would be longer than that because the Jewish calendar is 14 months. Okay, so no matter what argument they come up with, it's wrong. This is literal. This is not some made-up story, right? This is not some farmer writing down a tale. No. This is what God told Moses to write. Remember when we started, I said this is the genealogy, or this is the story of the genealogy of? Okay, that's history. And all the way up until Moses, it wasn't written down. It was just repeated. Moses was the first one to write it down. How long was that from Adam to Moses? We're going to add it up. Now, we're not there yet, so we have a long way to go. But I will show you that. All right? But listen to this. So Lamech lived 777 years And then the last verse of this chapter, after Noah was 500 years old, then he fathered Shem, Ham, and Japheth, right? Or Japheth. Now that's important. That's his only 3 children. Notice it does not say, and other sons and daughters. Right, not yet. That's over in chapter 7, right? So here we go. So Adam, born, bred more, and finally died, right? So we have to know that not all of the names are listed, and we have to know that it wasn't a sin because God promoted this, right? So until we get to Moses, this is okay, right? This is not incest. This is nothing like that. There's nothing wrong with this because this is what God had planned, right? But now listen to this. There are scholars out there that said if every person, when I say person, I mean couple, that's what I meant. If every couple had 5 children, by the time we get to Noah, there's more than 5 million people on earth. What? You know, look, we did generations. So starting with Adam, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We just did 10 generations. And if every couple had 5, then they say, and I don't know how they come up with that number, but that's what these people way smarter than me. It's all this other sons and daughters, right? All right. So now I want you to listen to some of these names, right? These are the names that we've covered already. So we know that Adam means man. God created man in his image. He called Adam and Eve man, capital, right? That means they're together. That's the formation of this, right? If you actually look at the Hebrew characters, there's 2 separate characters for the word man, which is Adam. One is singular or possessive, that is the name Adam. And the other one, if you look it up in a concordance, the numbers are 120 and 121. The other one is the couple or the mankind in total, right? So then here's Seth, the appointed one, right? Listen to this. Enosh means mortal. Okay? So he is mortal. He dies just like everybody else, right? But then Kenan means possession. And when we study and we try to find out more about Kenan and what he does, all we see is that he owns the land. And that's what in Hebrew that possession means. Okay? So then it says Mahalalalalalalalalala means praise of God. Now, when we started going through that, I said, notice it doesn't say that anybody walks with God or whatever, right? Well, then we get to Jared, right? Jared is descent, as in to come down from, okay? And then Enoch was dedicated. And I said that Enoch is the first time that we see anybody walk with God. He didn't die. He got taken away because he was dedicated. In our terms, he was righteous. Okay? Then it says Methuselah means, listen to this one really carefully. When he is dead, it will come. Methuselah means when he is dead, it will come. What will come? Hang on, you got it. You know where I'm going with this, right? Then Lamech means to make low. And the way I understand that description of that term, it's when you become, we call it reverent. When we become fearful of God, not afraid of, but reverent to. That's what this name Lamech means. Now, you go down Cain's lineage. I'm going to mispronounce that name, but it's Lamash. It means defiant. So you have a dedicated on the side of Seth and defiant on the name of, under the name of Cain. Then, once we get down here, Lamech has made us low, made us reverent, and all that's left now is Noah. Noah means rest. Remember back there, we read that. It said, when they called his name Noah, out of the ground that the Lord has cursed, this one shall bring us relief. So here's 5 million people on earth. And the only ones that we know of that have died are the ones, Abel, and then these names down through here up until Enoch. And we start counting up all this information. We start counting up all these days. And we get down here to this name, Methuselah. Oops, sorry, wrong. Methuselah. Methuselah lived 969 years. 969 minus 182, he was about 600 when Noah was born. Therefore, Methuselah was alive when the flood came. Now, these great historians and theologians say Noah was about 5 years old when Methuselah died. No, scratch that. I got something wrong there. Because Methuselah was alive when the flood came. That's probably how he died. That's what it said. The 5 years, something else happened in 5 years. I forgot now. Let me read this to you. Oh, and remember we talked about Enoch, right? He was taken up by God. Did you know he was also a prophet? No, it's not captured in Genesis, but way at the end of the Bible, there's this little book, one page, called Jude. Jude is the youngest half-brother of Jesus, in case you didn't know. So just before Revelation is the book of Jude. Here's Jude, verse 14. There's no chapters. It's just one page, right? Jude 14 to 16 says this. It was also about these that Enoch, the seventh from Adam, prophesied, saying, looking forward in time, right? Prophesied, saying, behold, the Lord comes with 10,000s of his holy ones to execute judgment on all and to convict all the ungodly of all their deeds of ungodliness that they have committed in such an ungodly way, and of all the harsh things that ungodly sinners have spoken against him. These are grumblers, malcontents, following their own sinful desires. They are loud-mouthed boasters, showing favoritism to gain advantage. Those are the words of Enoch from over 1,000 years before Jesus, talking about when Jesus comes the second time to do away with all of the badness that has gone on through all the centuries. And you just thought it was somebody that didn't die. So as we get through that, the other one, this is where that number came in. Seth, if you read through all of the dates, Seth died when Noah was 14. That's where that number was running around in my head, and I thought it was 5. It's 14. So Seth, when you count all of this up, died when Noah is 14. So he almost made it to the flood. When he made I don't think so, but we'll find out in chapter 6. I don't remember that. So today, we read this lineage, boring. Well, it is boring, but if you look at your own family tree, well, okay, a lot of people do. As a matter of fact, there would have been one person here tonight that would have rolled their eyes at me several times because why do we have to learn this? Well, here's why. Because in those 14 generations from Adam to Noah, 5 million people were created, they think, and all of them die but 6 in chapter 6. Where's 8? It's 8 people. It's 3 sons, their wives, and so it's 8 people. Right. But that's how we get there. So why do we have this lineage from Adam to Noah? Because the Bible always points you to the next story. The whole Old Testament points to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing, all to get to Jesus. And all the New Testament points to the future, to the revelation of Jesus that was given to John, the favorite of Jesus. It's all about the next story. And what's the next story when we get to Revelation? The return of the King. Can you tell I get a little excited? Even though this part is history. This was not written down. This was just, hey, my uncle, he had all these sons and daughters, and I had to marry one of them. That's what this is, right? This is just word of mouth. This is just telling the story of what God did, because none of these people except Adam and Eve and Enoch walked with God. That's it. Cain didn't. Cain got banished by God. Right? Now, so all of that mess goes out, and then Enoch brings it back in. And then what happens? The world becomes a bad place again. Right? That's why Noah. Huh? It's like we can't keep from doing wrong. We can't. It's just going to keep coming. It's going to keep coming. It's going to keep coming. Since Adam, man, and the first wedding. Right? Questions? All these people before the flood. So that's a great question. The answer to that question is yes. Now, here's what it says in the New Testament. If you were born under the law, you're judged by the law. These people were not born under the law, right? If you were born under Christ, in other words, from the moment Christ died forward, you're judged by the life of Christ. That would include us, right? But when Christ died, he descended into Sheol, or some people say Sheol, right? But we consider that a place of waiting, right? Now, the Catholics have a different term for it. Hades, not Hades, but I can't think of it anyway. Anyway, so Jesus descends into heaven and retrieves what's called the first children. That's them. Those that were righteous by whatever they were to be judged by, right? So if we have to imagine all those people are dead except Enoch, right? Enoch did not die, but all those others died. Were Adam and Eve righteous after the fall? We don't know. So are they in heaven? We don't know. But we do know that Seth and his descendants, some of them at least, are, which would include Noah. But Noah had problems as well, and we'll see that. But you know what? God still considered him righteous. That's a great question, though, Pops. I love that. So what we have to assume is that the majority of people were judged not to be righteous because they did not. Right, because exactly, right, except for the 8 on the boat, right? Now, those that died before that, like Seth died before the flood, Methuselah died probably right before the flood, if not right at the time of the flood. We don't think he died because of the flood. But you get the idea, those people would have been judged righteous and taken into heaven because their story points us to Noah. Not often we see it. Now, we see stories of wrongdoing and things where people are kicked out, right? First one I can think of is the man and his wife that were disciples that sold their land and then lied about how much they got for it. and they both died instantly, yeah, they're not judged as righteous. Right. Okay? Did I answer your question? Okay. At the final judgment, we all will stand. Yes. Well, that's how big the New Jerusalem is, right? Right. Many mansions inside the house. And I used to think that was funny because a mansion's bigger than a house. That's a big house with a big, big yard, a big, big table with lots and lots of food. Remember that song out of the 90s, right? Can't remember who did it now. I have to find that one. That's a good one. It's my father's house. That's the name of the song. It's a really good one. All right, well, then I'm going to go ahead and turn the camera off, and we'll do our personal prayer requests. And I really appreciate you guys being here. I appreciate you guys watching out there online. Hey, make sure you tune in Sunday. A couple of special things are going to happen Sunday. And if you're in the area, come by. We have food, hamburgers, hot dogs, and any sides that people bring. Just come on. We'll always have enough. All right? And otherwise, we will see you guys next time.